You actually have control. Hello learners, in the last video we went over how critical thinking is the ability to gather and interpret information with the purpose of arriving at a logical and reasonable judgment that is good for you. Well, in this video, we're gonna go over a few specific habits you can start building starting today to help you become a better critical thinker. Not only will these habits improve your critical thinking, but they will also help you live a more successful life. Hey, if you're just watching this video now and you're curious on the lessons you should have learned when you were in school, please remember to subscribe to my channel for the latest updates. Without further ado, let's begin. Now, I want you to know that critical thinking is a skill that you can get better at by doing more of it. So you guessed it, most of the strategies that I will share with you have to do with actually thinking or formalizing your thinking by writing things down. So how do you become a better critical thinker and be able to make better decisions and live a better life? Well, two things. It has to do with more quality thinking and also formalizing your thinking, usually by writing it down. Okay, so the first habit that you can build to improve your critical thinking really is to use your time off to reflect. I mean, what do you do in your time off? What do you do when there's like 15 minutes before for your first class and your second class, or when you're waiting at a bus station for a bus or for a car or for a train? What do you do during that time? During that free time, I'm guessing that a lot of us, we like to take out our cell phones and we either play a game or we either consume content or send messages, reply messages. That's what we do, right? We do something that gets our mind off things. But if you want to get better at critical thinking, those are actually the perfect times to reflect on your day and to think about your day. Critically think about what was good that happened today, what was bad that happened today, what did you do good today in, and what did you do poorly today in. How could today have been a better day? Could you have done more? Would you have done something differently? Asking yourself those questions every single day, making them a habit, will not only help you become a better critical thinker, but in the long run, it will also help you become more reflective, and it will also help you become a better person because you're constantly asking yourself to improve. I mean, sometimes I also get distracted and I play games when I'm supposed to be working, but because I have this habit of reflecting and asking myself these questions, oftentimes I catch myself. I'm like, hey Leon, why are you doing what you're doing right now? And oftentimes the answer is, I don't know. There's really no point to me playing this game right now when I need to get work done. And so at that point, I'm like, all right, uninstall, stop, delete, bye-bye. And I get back to work, right? But it's because I have that habit built in that I can catch myself when I'm distracted. The second habit that you can build to become a better critical thinker is by writing your problems down. I think Jordan Peterson once said that if you want to be a persuasive person, you have to write. I think the ability to write allows you to put your ideas into formal language that other people can understand. And oftentimes, if you write your problems down, you'll realize that they're actually not a big problem, that you actually feel like it's a big problem, but once you write it down, you're actually like, oh, that's manageable. So Dale Carnegie, in his book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, gives a framework for solving problems, and I recommend you do this. So number one, what he says is write the problem down. Just describe the problem in all of its detail, write it down. After doing that, number two, write the cause of the problem. Why does this problem exist in the first place? So you write down the cause of the problem, and then it goes to number three. What are the solutions? How are you able to solve this problem? What are some approaches? What are some ways you would take to solve this problem? Remember, divergent thinking, right? You want the problem solved, but there's more than one way to do it. Write down all the ways to do it. And then number 4, which one is the best way to do it? What's the best way to solve this problem? How would you decide? Write it all down. And the moment you do that, you realize that this problem is a lot more approachable than what it felt like 20 minutes before you wrote this thing down. Now I want you to know that after you write everything down, you actually need to do something about the problem, or else it won't go away. The third way to actually improve your critical thinking is actually by journaling. But not just any kind of journaling. I definitely don't mean the kind of journaling where you're like, oh, I saw the girl that I liked walk past me today. She was beautiful. I wish I could get to know. No, not that kind of journaling, but intellectual journaling. So one way to do that is to write down something important or significant that happened throughout the day, and then to write down how did you respond to that significant event or that important thing that happened. What did you do? What did you say? How did you feel? Describe everything. And then I want you to look at everything that you wrote down and ask yourself, what did you learn from this situation? How did you feel? Right? So by asking those questions, you're reflecting and you're formalizing your ideas on paper. So that will definitely build up your critical thinking ability. I think a lot of the times we say we don't want to write things down, like journal or write down our feelings, not just because we're lazy, but I think it's a lot of time because we're afraid to see ourselves for who we really are. We are afraid to accept that we have certain responses to certain events, that we feel certain way about certain people or certain things or certain problems. But I think at the end of the day, it's important to recognize your feelings for what they are, because that's the point when you can start critically deciding where you want to go next. The fourth habit that you can use to improve your critical thinking skill is actually pick a trait to build. Like pick a character trait to build. Maybe you want to be more humble, or you want to be more generous, or you want to be more thankful. It can be anything you want that you want to build into part of your character. And once you decide what you want to do, is be conscious of everything that you think throughout the day. And if you catch those moments where you're not thankful, or you're not generous, or you're thinking something that's totally opposite from those two things, you want to catch yourself and be like, hey, stop thinking that. And you want to think something else. And I think the ability to train yourself to focus on a specific trait will not only help you become more of the person that you want to be, but it also trains your mind to behave a certain way, to react a certain way. And eventually, you'll be able to apply this trait as if it's natural. You'll be naturally able to critically analyze. So let's say you're usually a very emotional person, you get angry really easily, but you want to build the character trait of staying calm. What would you do? Well, every time you feel angry, you feel like there's an outburst, you would stop yourself and you would ask yourself, why am I feeling this? Is this how I should react? And you might not get it every single time, right? You might only get it half the time, but 50% is better than 0. And over time, you'll build the habit of stopping. Every single time you feel angry, you'll stop and be like, is this worth getting angry over? And eventually you realize that you actually have control over your reaction to certain events or people or problems. And you'll be a critical thinker because you're opening yourself up to different ideas, different ways of behavior, and you're actually getting to see the effects of all of that in your own life. The fifth habit that you can build to become a better critical thinker is to practice communicating. Whether it's a one-on-one communication, whether it's presentation, whether it's written communication, it doesn't matter. You just have to communicate. talk to people, get your point across, practice getting your idea across. You can do that by joining a club, you can do that by leading an activity or an event, you can do that by answering questions. You can do that by joining an organization that improves your public speaking skills like Toastmasters. Regardless, the ability to communicate who you are, your message, across different platforms to all sorts of different people and persuade them and to change their ideas of what life is like, I think that communication will prove to only be useful to you in the future, and that you should build it as soon as possible. Now, if you're actually curious about communication and communication skills, please like this video and subscribe to my channel, because in the next video we are talking about communication. Until then, I just want to say bye bye and have a good time thinking critically.